Hey guys, it's Jen, and today I am super excited to share with you my labor and delivery story of my daughter. You guys may or may not know, but I gave birth recently on July 14th, 2016, and I had a little girl. So I wanted to share with you. Obviously, you've been on this whole pregnancy journey. It only made sense to give my side of how things happened with her birth. When 39 weeks came around, I was like, baby could come at any time. And then 40 weeks came and I was like, the baby can really come at any time. And then 41 weeks came and baby had to get forcibly evicted. I got induced on the day of my 41 weeks of pregnancy, which was not my first choice. I was actually really nervous about it because I had just heard so many horror stories of people saying inductions take a super long time and a lot of them end up in a C-section. But anyway, we prepared all of our bags after me moping for a couple of days, hoping baby would come out before then. We went to the hospital at 8:30 the morning of the induction. I got hooked up to all the monitors and IVs and stuff, and basically, I did a whole lot of waiting. The labor and delivery ward ended up getting really busy really fast, and I think maybe I was just kind of like pushed a little lower on the priority list. So I didn't really end up even getting anything to get my labor started for about 5 hours. I did end up getting a cervical softener. I think it was called misoprostol. They gave me that and then I had to wait another few hours to see if that was doing anything. It made me just only like half a centimeter more dilated. So I came in at 3 and then I was like 3.5. So then they were like, okay, we gotta put you on some pitocin. Pitocin is something I was really scared about because, again, I had heard all these stories from people saying that, oh, pitocin is terrible. It just makes your contractions super painful, so you can't even handle it, and it just like makes you forced to use all of the other pain medications to manage it because pitocin is the devil. I feel like for me, I didn't really get anything past period cramps, and I was like a 6 or an 8 on the pitocin scale. Unfortunately, like I said before, I was just like really hoping for things to move a little bit faster. By that time, it was already like deep into the evening. Like I want to say maybe 10 p.m. or so. And I had been there since 8 in the morning, not being able to eat or drink anything for a very long time. I was hoping I would have the baby like within a day. You know, that'd be a nice day to just like come in there, be induced, have a baby. Doesn't happen like that. The whole time you're there, nurses and doctors are coming in every hour or two. They're checking your cervix. They're seeing how far progressed you are. I would say at maybe like 11 at night, after one of the cervical checks, I felt like my water broke. At least a little bit. Not like huge gush, but I felt like it was like a little bit trickly. And after that point, that's when my contractions actually started kicking in. I would almost say that the pitocin ones were doing basically nothing. They weren't really making me dilate. The pain was manageable, like maybe just a 3 from 1 to 10. And then after my water broke, I want to say it went up to like an 8 within a half an hour. Once I had for real contractions, I had maybe 3 actually super painful ones that I had to really breathe through before I was like, can I have that epidural, please? The nurses, they basically said, hey, if you start getting those kinds of contractions, call for an epidural right away if you're already planning on having one, because you don't know what the anesthesiologist is doing. They might be in a C-section, they might be having like 3 other ladies needing epidurals before you. It could take 2 hours or more for you to actually get that epidural, and you don't want to be in that kind of pain for that long when you're already planning on doing the procedure. Lucky for me, the epidural came after like 10 minutes, which I was really shocked about, but very happy because nobody likes those really real contractions. I don't think I've met anybody who's like, oh yes, I'll take a few more of those, get my baby out. you know, the totally painful way. Ben had to be kicked out because it's like a super sterile environment. The epidural was totally not as scary as I imagined it could have been. I've heard people say it's like a bee sting. I've never actually been stung by a bee. It was just like maybe like 3 pinches, because they give you the numbing shots first and then they give you the epidural and then they put in the catheter, and I was super scared about the catheter as well. But that ended up being probably equal to the pain of the epidural, which is, you know, not that painful. After I had the epidural, the contraction pain went down pretty dang quickly. I think it takes about an hour for the medicine to fully kick in, but they kind of hook it up to your IV thing and squeeze it in there so that you get that juice right away. Even though it takes a while for the machine to pump it through your body, you do get the pain relief right after you get the epidural. So that was super helpful, because I probably had another 3 major contractions during and right before the actual epidural procedure. All in all, I didn't have a ton of the super intense, crazy birthing pains that I know a lot of women out there have. After the epidural, my main focus after that was to try to get as much sleep as possible, which is kind of tricky because either way, the doctors and nurses come in, like I said, every hour or 2 to check on you. So I was like, okay, it's 1, I'm already super tired, I'm super hungry, super thirsty. I at least need to sleep if this baby is gonna come out within the next day, and the longer it goes, the longer I go without eating. I conked out for a few hours, I'd wake up, they would keep monitoring the baby, making sure she was okay. At one point, they did come in and wake me up and say that I needed to have an oxygen mask. They just wanted to make sure I had enough oxygen, she had enough oxygen. And then they also came in and they said, oh, we want to put an internal monitor on you. Before that point, they just have these big clunky monitors that they strap onto your stomach. It's like got gel underneath it. It's moving around all the time, really uncomfortable. So I was actually a little bit relieved for them to put in an internal monitor. Part of that process was also officially breaking my water. When they did that, they found that there was some meconium in the amniotic fluid, which means that baby had her first poop within my stomach. It's not uncommon by any means. It's a super, super common thing to happen. However, because there is poop in the fluid, they wanted to clear that up as much as possible. So they also put a saline drip inside my amniotic fluid to kind of flush out whatever they could. I fell back asleep and I woke up and my bed was soaked. It was so cold and I was shivering like a chihuahua. They put these sort of like puppy pads under you, except without the puppy pad stuff. They're called Chuck's pads, and those are covering the whole bed, but all of those were soaked. All of the sheets were soaked. So they switched that all out and they put a ton of blankets on me because I was just like chilled to the bone. I felt a lot better after that and fell back asleep. Apparently the doctor and nurses, they had to keep checking on my temperature because all the extra blankets made my temperature go higher. I think it went up to like 100 degrees, 101 maybe. But they just wanted to make sure I didn't have an infection and had a fever. I felt totally fine. After they took some of the blankets off, it went back down to normal, so that wasn't actually a serious problem, thank goodness. I don't know, after then it was kind of a blur because I was just in and out of sleep in between all of the nurse checks. At one point I was 7 centimeters dilated at around 10, 11 in the morning. They woke me up. They said that I was ready for some practice pushes. And I was like, whoa, already? Okay. Basically, they said for me to take a really, really, really huge breath, as big as I could, and then to push downward like I was taking a really big poop. But I had to relax my butt. So I couldn't tuck my spine under, which I think is your natural tendency when you're like curling all up and trying to push. That was a huge, huge, huge help because I did not do any preparation for like breathing methods or how you should push a baby out. I had one tactic, that is breathe in through your nose and out through the mouth. That was my only go-to. I did use that. It's good advice. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Breathe slow, breathe deep. And we did 3 pushes per contraction. So I did that 3 times, and they said I did a really good job, which I was really glad of. The nurse actually asked if I was a swimmer because I pushed really well, and I was like, no, I didn't really exercise much during my pregnancy even, so, you know, had to give myself a pat on the back for just naturally being able to push efficiently. One tip that the nurse did that was super handy was this epidural trick that I hadn't heard anybody else do. She had this inflatable peanut thing. It's sort of like a yoga ball, but it's in the shape of a peanut, and they put it in between your legs. I was on one side, and there's this little button to give you extra juice from the epidural. She had me push that 3 times in a row. You can only push it once every 10 minutes, so there's no way you can overdose on the epidural medication. Doing that on one side made gravity have the epidural medicine go all the way to the lower leg and sort of extra numb everything. And then she had me flip onto my other side, push it another 3 times, and it numbed the other side. Before that point, the epidural does mask all of the contraction kind of feelings, but if I were to touch my skin, I could feel sensations on the top of my skin. But after I did that and I touched my legs, they were totally numb. I got a little bit more sleep. I woke up and they're like, okay, you're ready. It's time to go now. You ready? Okay, let's do it. That was kind of crazy because it happened really fast because we had been waiting and waiting and waiting. Again, from like 8:30 in the morning all night, and then this was at 1:30 I started pushing in the afternoons. Big breaths in, 3 pushes per contraction, and then in between each contraction, I was trying to conserve as much energy as possible because it's like, we're here. I don't know how long this is gonna take. I don't know if this is gonna take hours of me pushing to get her out. So I just wanted to be as focused and concentrated and calm as possible. I just thought if I let my emotions really get ramped up too much, if I get too stressed out, it's not gonna be good for the baby, it's not gonna be good for me pushing. So I went into Zen master mode, and the whole room was like totally silent in between contractions. I did my one good trick, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then when it came to pushing time, I grabbed my legs, did the 3 pushes, and then it went back to Zen mode. And I was kind of thinking to myself, like, this is really strange. I've never seen or heard of anyone having such a calm delivery, but it was very, very, very calm. Everything was totally quiet and silent. And even my pushes, I wasn't screaming or anything. I was just really focused, really concentrated, and trying to push as efficiently as possible. Once I started getting a little bit bigger, more progressed, the midwife started doing this massage, I guess you could say. They took KY jelly and she would sort of like massage the opening to try to prevent me from having really bad tearing and sort of help the process, which I was really grateful for. I know it sounds really invasive and kind of crazy, but I'm really, really thankful she did that because, again, I didn't do anything to prepare. I wasn't like doing any massages while I was still pregnant to try to like ease the labor. I didn't know. It's my first baby, and I'm very, very thankful. She was so helpful, so good at just guiding me through. About 45 minutes after I started pushing, out came Arya. The NICU team was in the room because she did have meconium, so they just wanted to be on hand in case she did breathe in the meconium. But after she slipped out, they just plopped her right on my chest, on my stomach actually, and she cried right away. And I just remember being like, oh, thank goodness she cried. Thank goodness she's not having breathing problems. The NICU team didn't end up being needed. They did cut the umbilical cord right away because they wanted to be on hand for that emergency situation, but they brought her over to the warming table, cleaned her up, and they weighed her. You guys, She was 7 pounds 9 ounces, and I am a small person. I think I literally was like, what? Because that is huge. That is a big baby. Everybody in the room kept talking about how big she was and how like strong her muscles are. And again, if you followed my Snapchat, you probably already know. She has been kicking me like a crazy alien monster the entire pregnancy, so it only makes sense that she would come out a very strong little girl, very healthy, very big, but I was just so overwhelmed and so happy to have her. I ended up having some tears. I know nobody wants to hear that, but for those of you who have had a baby before and had some tearing or any problems, not just you, I dealt with that too. My baby was big for my body, she weighed a lot, and she also had a big noggin. I had a labial tear and a 2nd degree tear, which, you know, it's pretty common, but also painful. So I had some stitches. The next day, I left the hospital. I might talk about the whole recovery process and all of that in another video, because that's its whole other beast to deal with. 7 weeks out, I have to say, I'm so amazed at what bodies can go through. Like, it's just the craziest thing. I had a pretty rough recovery, but I feel like the point I am now, I can definitely see the light. I feel like I can get around a lot like pre-pregnancy. My body is actually snapping back really quickly, and it's really encouraging knowing that I can look back and say, like, look how far I've come. Look how big I was stretched out during my pregnancy, and how much my stomach has shrunk. My face has already changed. I was pretty puffy and swollen. My nose got really wide during my pregnancy. My lips got really puffy. And I feel like in my face, I already look like back to before I was pregnant. It's been quite a whirlwind. This is Arya, and she's a big girl. At her last check, she was like in the 94th percentile for length. My goodness, tall girl. She's amazing. I love her so much. She has really bad reflux, and she is gaining weight beautifully. She's getting some chubby little cheeks, which is pretty amazing because I've been exclusively breastfeeding, so bodies are really cool. Yeah. I hope I can share a lot more adventures of mommyhood and parenting, which I will do on my second channel. Oh, bless you. I'm gonna do that on my second channel and share more about like mommyhood and family stuff. For this channel, I'm going to be returning to my beauty programming, which I'm really excited to do, and eventually have her be involved in that as well. Maybe not until you're a teenager. What do you say, Ari? So thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed my labor story. And if you like Arya's cute little outfit, give me a thumbs up on this video. Feel free to subscribe to see more of my beauty videos. Subscribe to my second channel if you want to see more about mommyhood. And I will see you guys in my next video. I love you so much. I'll talk to you later. Bye.